Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Sarcasm Speaks, Jared and Bob, and we got Bill. Is this your first time on the show?
This might be first time since like
I was gonna say, did you
man
make it on in Mansfield?
Mansfield Office
I would
one
say
of
sitting on the
nine.
floor of Jamie's room
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
before it was Jamie's room.
yeah.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, so like real OG.
Back when we were children.
Yeah, when I was filming the video on my phone.
Didn't we have a two phone setup at one point?
We did. Yeah, we were. I was used. I used my work phone and my regular phone to film two different angles to then splice them together so it looked like it was side by side, like how it basically is on Zoom.
That is
Um,
some scrappy production, my friend.
yeah,
Really making it happen.
yeah, yeah. I took a crash course in video editing for a while. It's funny now because I was talking to somebody about that. Like, I forget how it came up. Someone at work was talking about that. And they were like, yeah, like making videos, whatever. It's like, I'm having a hard time like figuring this out. And she goes, you don't know anything about this, right? And I go, I had to like stop and be like, I have very rudimentary video editing skills. And then I was like, if it's not iMovie, then I really don't know how to use it at all. She was like, "Oh, okay. Like, would you like have a hobby or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. It's I used to edit videos for like my friends and stuff." I was like, "Yeah, I definitely cannot say, oh yeah, no, it's I edit the video on my podcast." It's like, yeah, that's a great way to not have a job anymore. But yeah, literally, like if it's not iMovie, I don't know how to do it. Although I did put together that very phenomenal Festivus fight video. Remember that? That thing was
I do.
That
I
thing was
do.
pretty good. That
That
looked like
was.
a high schooler made it in 10th grade AV class.
But that high schooler would have got like minimum a B plus on it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't make any videos in video production in high school.
We just watched movies, didn't we?
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't have cell phone. Well, not that we didn't have cell phones, but we didn't have iPhones in high school. Like the iPhone
I was
came
more
out
so
in
just
2008.
I was more just focusing on a class called video production where no videos were produced. Not
Yeah, I
one.
mean, are you going to give a bunch of high school kids a video camera, like a camcorder? Like those things were insanely expensive back in the day. It was probably like $1,000 for a camcorder.
I don't think you're focusing on the point here. You're using way too much practical application. We very easily could have made a video in the class, in the classroom, in the class.
I also think a lot of high schools do actually do that. We just didn't have the stuff to do it with. Like
Yeah. Well,
there's
you also our like the way our school was constructed, you're right. You can't have people do anything good. Like you can't allow people to leave early. Like you can't allow anything. Like you can't go to the underpass for lunch.
and they didn't.
You can't give study periods. Like you that was the thing with our school. You couldn't do anything good because someone always fucked it up throughout history.
Yeah, I mean that definitely rings true.
The first
I
time I
think
heard people at other high schools like left for lunch, I was like, what are you talking about? There's no way that's a thing because no one would have came
yeah,
back for
yeah.
ours. So they knew what they had on their hands.
Although me and John Souza did that a few times. We used to just leave. We used to get a ground pass and go to fuck, what was the name of that place? Was it Bill's? The place over by the Rotary in West Medford? Joe's. I think it was Joe's. Um like
Pizza?
heading into Winchester. Yeah, Joe's Pizza. You know, like the
Joe.
double
Yeah.
rotary?
Joe Pizza.
Yeah, Joe Pizza. Yeah.
It's not my pizza,
Um,
it's Joe Pizza.
it's Joe Pizza. Um, but yeah, we used to go there for lunch and then just come back. So I don't know.
Well, aren't you special?
Well, I certainly thought I was from probably circa 2009. But yeah, so Bill, you're here. You got some shit to talk, right? You get some grievances to air, and it's not even Festivus.
It's not
Um,
Festivus.
Not Festivus in February either.
no, no, that yeah, Festivus in February. Although it does have an alliteration there. So what do we got going on? What do you want to get off your chest?
Oh, I mean, how deep do you guys want to go on like the general state of the fitness industry, particularly like the fitness industry online and everything? Like, I know we got a couple different points of view, sectors of it. Dats, I can only imagine you maybe have like a thought or two in this world, but
You might end up being surprised. So why don't you just lead the sheep? You border collie us around.
oh God. Okay. I'll border collie us around. I mean, if I see one more like 5 exercises you need to do for X reason on the internet, like I don't know, I might just throw my cell phone out a window. Um, just like the the general reductionist thought process on like what that world is now and like how I don't
Yeah,
know, like programming and like periodization and like choosing things for specific outcomes. It's just like do your goblet squats and do your leg extensions or whatever. I don't know. I just did the yeah, just like the lack of just like any like nuance to the things that people want to talk about
yeah.
and or post about is I don't know, frustrating to say the least.
I I have a really hard time with that one because I see those all the time, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fucking dumb. But so me and I don't think Merritt listens to the show, but you remember Andrew Merritt? He used to lift on our weightlifting team.
Yes.
I still keep in
Yes.
touch with him. He lives up in New Hampshire. Him and I will send things. We just like our Instagram chat back and forth is like it's all like weightlifting or like dumb shit like that, right? Or like fucking CrossFit women or dumb shit, right? Um, so sometimes I have a hard time with that because yeah, for sure, coming at it from the angle of like the three of us went to school for this, you look at it and you're like, that's retarded, right? But there's a reason why everyone does it, right? Because that's what people want to consume. Like no one, and so not to besmirch, I don't mean this in a besmirching way. He's actually a very good friend of mine, and I haven't talked to him in a while, but I do like him a lot. Was Holmes, right? So like the one thing we used to run into with some of the high school kids was like he was very scientific and he would get into like the ground reaction forces and Vergashansky and his style of lifting and all this other stuff. And like sometimes you like some kids were super into it, right? But like most of the kids were like, yeah, that's cool. I'm just gonna go lift weights. So it's like from a scientific standpoint, you look at that and you're like, you're retarded. Um, but like the average person probably doesn't want to hear like this is why you should do this exercise for this benefit. And then if you're going to do it that way, you should also pair with this other thing because of this X, Y, and Z. They're like, just shut the fuck up and tell me to do goblet squats.
Fair. I do think there's a lot between uh
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
goblet
went
squat,
too
leg
very,
press and lunge on your leg day to like
yeah, no, for sure.
Verkhoshansky and like advanced like Russian plyometric routines from the 1980 Soviet Olympic team.
Yeah, yeah,
I think we
yeah,
might have a spectrum to follow. I don't know. I
yeah.
think I guess what I would hope to see more is like, yes, entry points. And I do think that there is a lot more, but like, I don't know if like bring your like whoever you're posting for, whoever that archetype person that you are trying to talk to, like bring them along a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's
hey,
fair.
if you did this last month, do this month to try to like continue
Yeah.
to get better. Or if we like really want to talk about foundational like principles of all this stuff, like the baseline things that people should be doing, like let's talk about like actual routine, like lifestyle routines and like different things like that. I don't know. It just feels like the if if you want to say you're like teaching, like I feel like a lot of people online like claim they're teaching. Like if you're
No
gonna
one's
teach,
teaching
like go
shit.
teach.
Yeah.
Like if
Like if
you're
you
just
just
gonna
want to
show
teach, go
what
be a
you did,
teacher. That's
um,
that's the thing. It's like if you want to teach, be a teacher or bring something interesting to the table. Now for the because obviously we see this stuff on social media. The simple thing is usually it's like the thumbnail has to be something that like catches people's attention. So that's why it's always like do like these three drills, these four drills, whatever. And it's like I do the same stuff, or I'm doing the same stuff with some speed and agility, whatever. Um, but I also feel like the speed and agility stuff is not very well known. Um, so it's like, hey, like four drills for acceleration. I don't even know what the fuck I put. I did something this morning. I don't even know what it was.
yeah. But
Um,
I pay attention to your stuff, and you're at least doing different stuff on a regular basis.
well, I was gonna say because I'm not coming at you with um ladder drills or something where it's like we know this doesn't work. We know this is a waste of time, and we know any idiot can fucking run someone through ladder drills.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when it's like so the bullshit I see is always in the golf world where it's like five exercise for longer drives, and it's like a split squat, a row, a like RDL, like a T spine rotation, and like a fucking whatever. It's like, where'd you come up with that? From anything ever?
Oh,
It's
you
like
mean
the most,
things that literally every single human could be doing
yeah,
and
it's like things
getting
that
some
people already know.
benefit
And that's the
from?
thing, things that people already know. Like you walk into a commercial gym, people are going to do rows. People are going to do bench press. People are going to do cable pull downs. Like all that stuff's already there. And it's
Well, and
like,
that's the
oh
other
yeah,
thing too. You can walk into most commercial gyms now, at least the ones that I walk into, and I think this is my maybe my even bigger issue is I feel like there is no longer a like big delta between like fitness enthusiast and fitness professional on the internet. Like I remember
Yeah.
feeling like in whatever, call it 2013, like for anyone to be followed as a fitness professional, you neither needed to train like legitimate A-list actors, which granted, let's say what they were doing worked or didn't, but like if you claim your client is Chris Hemsworth, the lay public is going to listen to what you say,
Right.
or
Right.
like professional athletes,
Yeah.
or you needed to be like particularly spectacular at what you did, like West Side Barbell power lifter, like legitimate national level competitive weightlifter, like national level CrossFitter, like all that stuff. And when you went into a gym, like you didn't see the average gym goer doing their squats and their trap bar deadlifts and their presses and their hip mobility drills to start and their anaerobic intervals at the end of the workout. Like you didn't see that in 2013. Now you go into a lot of commercial gyms and like most people's like general layout like is pretty good. Like you see people very quickly get to okay, I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna do a cardiovascular warm up, I'm gonna do some mobility drills, I'm gonna do some big compound movements, maybe some core, maybe a finisher, like some stuff that is like not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And then you get the uh supposed professional just reiterating like all of those same things that all of those people are already doing with like no layer of uh um nuance or like new something new to it or like a different angle that people can benefit from. um and I don't know, it's been weird to
Oh,
watch
you
over the
mean like
last 10 or
squats on a
12.
Bosu ball?
Yes. Well, I know what I mean is like some of the stuff Dats is talking about of like a legitimate extra benefit or like additional layer that you can bring to the thing that you're doing.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just being a cunt.
Yeah. It's just like the gap has closed
Yeah, no,
so
I think that's a really interesting point. And I think that's one of those things that you can trace back to social media. Well, obviously, because everything is being posted on social media, but the growth of social media was one of those things that like the fitness industry really didn't see that coming, I don't think, where here we are roughly 2 decades later, right? Like Facebook really started in 2007 or 8 or whatever. But we're coming up on 2 decades of like social media, and now we have, like you said, people that are fitness enthusiasts, right? That also like are pretty knowledgeable, right? Like what's the difference between them and a quote unquote fitness professional besides like having a piece of paper or like a couple initials after their name, right? Like, and I
or you've
know
just deemed
in
yourself one
general,
without either of those things.
right, right. And I know in general, again, everything is a spectrum, right? Like there are some phenomenal fitness professionals that are miles ahead of even the best fitness enthusiast, right? But in general, like you said, I don't think the delta between the average fitness enthusiast and the average fitness professional is much different.
No, and I think I guess where I would maybe um coming back to what bothers me, which seems to be the theme of this episode, which I'm totally fine with,
I
is
mean,
like the
if we're not going to talk about shit that bothers us, then we kind of really don't have a show.
is like the lack of delineation between like fitness influencer, like I'm just gonna show you the shit that I do, and like
Mhm.
coach. I even like
Yeah.
the fact that the word coach is used in like the general
Yeah.
practitioner world. It's like, I don't know, that we've
I
lowered
th
that bar quite a
I
bit.
think in a way this has kind of always been around. Maybe it's just gotten worse. Because like remember back when we were, actually competing in Olympic lifting, right?
Mhm.
And
Loosely
loosely, yeah.
competing.
Oh no,
Um,
you were competing. No
yeah, we
one
were
spoke
competing.
about what to what extent.
Um,
Fair.
so people would watch like Dmitry Klokov, right? Or they would watch Donovan Ford, or they would watch all these guys, Jared Fleming, right? And they'd be like, oh, Jared Fleming does this for a warm up. So, like, I'm going to do that for my warm up. And it's like, no, 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 no. Jared Fleming is a borderline Olympian. He never actually made it, but he was like an Olympic hopeful for the United States as a 94 kilo male lifter. Like, you at 175 pounds that's just getting into the sport, like you do not need to be doing the same thing that Jared Fleming is doing, right? Like,
Not to mention, he's acquired a likely litany of injuries along the way that he is dealing with
correct.
that
Well,
you
that's
are
why he
not.
never made it to the Olympics, is because he
Yeah.
just got so injured. I think he ended up
Uh,
doing CrossFit. He quit Olympic lifting and did CrossFit. Now I don't know what he does, but
Not gonna lie, I still can visualize that YouTube video of him hang cleaning like 202 kilos for a double. I
yeah.
know you know the one I'm
Yep.
talking
Yeah, I know
about.
exactly the
He's in
one.
the
Yeah.
corner platform at LSU Shreveport, and
Yep.
it's just like hilarious how fast he moves, like whatever that is for, like
440,
405 for a double, 408 for a double.
four.
Hilarious. Four,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
almost
408.
450. That's almost, isn't it? Wait, no, 202 kilos.
202.
Isn't
Yeah,
it like
202 would
450
be like
pounds?
440. It's close to
Oh yeah, yeah,
450
yeah.
pounds.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. It's too late for me
Yeah.
to do math. Um, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that stuff, it's but at the same time, he wasn't saying this warm up helped me do a
Right.
202 hang clean for a double.
Yeah.
Like, um,
I think it's just
he
spread, right? So like that might be a little bit of social media too. So like someone like a Jared Fleming or Donovan Ford, right? Just to use
Hmm.
them as keep using them as an example. Only Olympic lifters were exposed to that type of stuff, so that's what they were doing. But like fitness, in air quotes, wasn't like a thing, right? Like CrossFit was still like Pukey the Clown, right? Like back in
Yeah.
the day, like that wasn't. But now CrossFit has gotten so popular, and even things like American Ninja Warrior and all
Well,
of
High
these
Rocks is
like
the big one now. High Rocks is stealing all of CrossFit's shine right
I don't
Now,
even
now.
know what that is.
CrossFit has finally
Is
CrossFit
that
hit their
rock
peak.
climbing?
They hit their drop, and now they've settled where the good gyms are good and people continue to do it, and the shitty gyms are fucking, I don't know, selling insurance or fucking makeup. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
What is
Yes.
High Rocks?
High Rocks is, and I mean, this is like a very loose understanding. I think it started as a competition first, and now they did like the opposite of CrossFit. Like CrossFit started kind of with like training facilities and went into competition. That
Hmm.
started as competition and went is now I think going into training facilities, like they
Okay.
certified facilities, and I think they're opening a few. But it's pretty much just like it's like like the chippers in CrossFit, like the chipper
Uh,
workouts, like the big long string,
oh
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
20 minutes and it's like nine movements in a row or whatever. The
Yeah.
workouts seem kind of like that, except I don't really think they use it's a lot more like sleds and like wall balls and like walking lunges and things like that versus like hang snatches for sets of 50
Yeah, yeah.
and like literal gymnastics, like not high level
Right.
but like medium level gymnastics.
Right. Right.
um but yeah,
Okay.
I think they essentially they took the general theme of like the CrossFit Open ish and
Yeah.
like dumbed down the movement, um
Okay.
uh the movement skill level to the point that
Yeah.
like if you're in really good shape, you can probably just figure this stuff out without training it directly.
Okay.
No.
So yeah, I mean, with all of that, right? Like the fitness industry has expanded so much where everyone is exposed to that, right? So like I said before, like only us idiots were watching like high level Olympic athletes or Olympic hopeful athletes and shit like that. And now it's the general public can just watch people, you know what I mean? I don't know whoever the CrossFit guys are now. It used to be Matt Frazier and Rich Froning, right? Like those were the two
Mm-hmm.
guys, but I know they're old now. Um, like it's just like you can just pop on Instagram and like see what all of these people do, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? Like it's just more accessible now, I think is what I'm looking to
So
say.
if you think about it, whether it's fitness, whether it's golf, whether it's basketball, there's always been do it how the pro does it. There was Arnold's the movie or whatever they had. All the bodybuilders throughout time, like they would have the shows or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Golf. This is the equipment that whoever's using. This is the shoes Michael Jordan's wearing. Like there's always that. And if you take, say, 2013, like around 2012, 2013, Men's Health was probably the most popular publication for men in general. I would like so for the average fitness person, it was
Yeah.
probably Men's Health then.
And Playboy.
Yeah, but see that's for all um people, or I guess all men. But a lot of that stuff was still print, or it's like a Facebook article,
Yeah.
or it's a blog or whatever. Now it's like you're seeing the video, so it's like, oh, here I am explaining you how to do something. I've got abs, so listen to me. And it's like it used to be like that, and it was like Captain America had abs, so do this Captain America workout where it was like fucking Superman, bird dogs, and like fucking straight leg sit ups or something. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
it was the same, literally like the same article from 6 months before with like a different person
which
or
was the Iron
different,
Man workout,
yeah,
which was the
6 months
Sparta
before that.
workout, which
Yeah.
was or the 300 workout, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's always kind of been like that. It's just now you are seeing front and center like, oh, this person has big arms, I'm going to listen to them, or this person's shredded, I'm going to listen to them. So humans themselves are always like that. Like
Yeah.
even in golf, like Ben Hogan's book, whenever the fuck that came out, I don't even know. Like that dude was playing like in the 50s. Like and he was old in the 50s. So it's like, my 5 lessons or whatever. And like the book was like, hey, this is how I play golf. And everyone looked at that as like, this is the way to everyone play golf. And like the book has been debated for years and like still to this like 60 fucking years probably. 70 years probably. Like people still debate it. Like, oh well, Ben Hogan said this and he was pretty good. And it's like, you're not fucking Ben Hogan.
Yeah. Also 70 years ago.
Yeah. And again, too, it's like the whole premise of the book is so this is a great example because all Bill's looking for is like a qualifier. The people don't read the qualifiers. That's the other piece. Like, because Ben Hogan started with like, hey, I used to hit hooks all the fucking time, and I couldn't play hitting hooks. So I've done like these 5 things in my swing, and now I don't hit hooks. And then people are like, oh my God, like I hit these slices, and then like I did what Ben Hogan said, and it just sliced like more. And it's like, yeah, because he said he hit hooks. He didn't say he hit slices. So why the fuck would it work for you? Well, Ben Hogan said it. Like it's the same fucking lemming fucking arguments. And it's like throughout the test of time, it's always the same shit. And you even get it now, like with because like obviously I'm like way more specialized because I am doing, I'm training younger kids and speed and agility is a big piece of what we do because frankly, the strength training that we do for them just really doesn't matter because they're all young. So I can give them almost anything
Yeah,
and it
and
would
they're
be
going to see
fine.
some benefit.
And yeah, so I mean, like, yes, we do train with
They're all on
intelligent,
steroids.
exactly. And it's like we do train with intelligent principles, but like, well, do I RDL or do I single leg RDL or do I hamstring curl? I don't know. What fucking one are they going to do right? Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So give them that one. It's like, well, if I want to get, if I want to train the hip and through hip extension, but if I want to train the hamstrings through knee flex, it doesn't matter. The kid almost just fell over like doing an assisted jump.
And
Uh,
not to mention to that point, like if you zoom out over the course of, I'm sure, 18 months working with you guys, they're gonna do all of them. And
yeah,
that's the piece that I just wish was talked about, like just a little bit more, just like a little tiny bit more is like it just we like in a given year for like like I'm in general population, like most like normal, like moms, dads, people that weren't like whoever. And like over the course of the year, if you had, I don't know, 4 months that looked like you trained at Cressy or Boyle's place, 4 months that looked like you trained like a, I don't know, moderate level bodybuilder, and then like 4 months that you looked like you were training like you were kind of getting ready for a 10K, it's probably a good way to like line everything up.
Yeah.
it's like if you're just a regular person, then that's another piece. It's like a regular person. It's like, well, what do you want to do? It's like I just want to stay active. Hey, man, do whatever you want, I guess. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
if you
like you
don't,
literally told me you just want to stay active, so just be active. Yeah, but like I need to like do this X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, you said you wanted to be active.
well, that's the thing, and that's why it's always
Being
like, oh,
active is different.
that's why like the sales conversation is always like dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. What's the story? Da, 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 whatever. And that's how you get people to do or not do. Because anyone that's just like, oh, I gotta stay active. It's like, all right, cool. What have you done before? It's like, oh, well, I've done CrossFit, I've done Pilates, I've done yoga, I've done personal training, I did my own thing, I've been to these three commercial gyms. I'm like, oh boy, this is not gonna work out. It never does.
The
Yeah.
the program hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? None of it's ever good enough. Every program ever, none of it's good enough. Yeah, you're right. It's the programs, it ain't you.
Yeah.
Which is funny because like literally every I mean, not every, there's some wild shit out there that people will try to pass off as like fitness information per this conversation. But anything that's like been around or been in print or whatever for at least a little bit with done with the right intensity is probably gonna work. Like it's all gonna work. Like how hard did you do it? And did you do it at an appropriate level of difficulty for you for right now? And are you going to do it like a little bit harder next week?
Right.
And if you just keep doing that, it's all going to work. It doesn't need to be like this specific movement or that one.
Right.
Funny, it's like when you really break down whether a program is going to work or not, the program is stupid. If you do it, it'll work. Humans fuck it all up.
Yeah.
Because if someone's like, "Oh, I want to, I want to get really strong." It's like, all right, well, go grab Mark Ripetoe's starting strength protocol. People get really fucking strong doing that shit.
Yeah. Or do a five
It
three one.
didn't really work for me.
I
How?
got stupid strong doing 531.
531's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I love 531, except I fucking the fives week was sometimes fucking soul crushing, but
I did that. I did a 531 leading into that random one-off weightlifting competition that I did after not competing for years back in, I think it was 2019. It was before COVID. So I think it was 2019 when I was with Monster Chris, Chris LeBlanc from ABT. We teamed up and we did one last competition together. And well, he did more after that, but that was my last competition in 2019. And I think I took the silver medal at the Bay State Games. And
There we go.
all I did was 531. And I think I don't know if I've said it on the show before, but I've definitely talked about it before that when I was talking to Tony from Architect about that, he was joking like, "Yeah, doesn't it make you feel like shit that all those years that you did such a strict weightlifting program and you just did 8 weeks of something stupid where you didn't even train that hard and you lifted like 85% of what you did back then?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it does make me feel really dumb."
Well, I mean, if you're doing like a clean and the weight on the bar happens to be, I don't know, 70% of your one rep max deadlift and 85% of your one rep max front squat, it's probably not going to feel all that bad. It's not going to feel that
Yeah,
heavy
right,
compared to
right,
if it's like 95% of your one rep max deadlift and 100% of your best front squat.
right,
even like think like a power lift. If power lifters generally don't clean, but take someone who can deadlift 800 pounds for reps and put 400 pounds on the bar, they're probably gonna get that thing pretty fucking high. Now they might not catch it, but
right.
it'll be going up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
if
won't be the
if
problem.
especially at the lighter weights because they tend to not like get themselves too much moving around like a I don't know, like they're made of oil drums. Like they maintain some level of mobility and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like you want to go to the Olympics for weightlifting, power lift from like the age of 13 to 21 and then learn the lifts after that. Might be the best way to do it.
Well,
yeah.
even with some of the speed stuff that I've been learning, like there's one guy and he was talking about his combine players, and he goes, yeah, we really don't run full 40s in combine training. And people look at me like I'm crazy. He goes, dude, you can't run max 40s plural.
Yeah.
And he goes, if we were to do that, these guys need like 3 days off. He goes, and we don't have that type of time. He goes, never mind, if someone gets hurt in like week three, he's like, it's a whole thing. He goes, it's not worth it. He goes, plus he goes, they also don't need it. And the same guy talks about a speed reserve, which not a lot of people bring up. People bring up a strength reserve, like Bill was just saying. Like, if you can deadlift 800 pounds, then pulling 400 off the floor is not going to be that hard. That's speed weight. But like, take two guys in the NFL who run at game speed like 18 miles an hour. And then you've got one guy who runs a max of 19 miles an hour, and you got another guy that runs a max of 20 miles an hour. Well, the guy whose max out is 20 miles an hour, that dude's only working at 90%. The other dude's working at like 97%, 98%. He
Right.
goes, he goes, not only who's going to be able to repeat it more, also who's more in shape. He goes, the one that's working, 7% less hard to do the same work.
Right.
Well, and that guy has that extra gear for like the three times a game that they need it.
Well,
Right.
even in football, you hear occasionally, oh, Devin McCourty hit 21 miles an hour on the his pick six. It's always a pick six because people, the football, they slow you down. So like the purest idea of this would be DK Metcalf when he ran down Buda Baker down the sideline
Yeah.
because there were no people in the way. He had plenty of time to get to full speed and he was not carrying the football.
Well,
That
I'll
has
lay another one
happened.
on there. He had an external, like, objectively, you are going to run faster if you are chasing someone.
Yes, which was what we train and
Right.
we train with that too. But that example, what just for you two, because I know what my answer is. What is like the next other example of something like that that you can think of?
I mean, being chased by a lion.
No, think
Like,
about football.
are
No,
you
my
talking
answer
about
is
football? Or are you
my
talking about
answer is
like
in
just
football.
biologically?
No, in football.
Okay. All right.
Of the DK Metcalf down the sideline catching
Yeah,
Buda
just
Baker.
something that like another play that might make you think of that.
Well,
Like
you said without the ball.
The James Harrison pick six in the Super Bowl.
Mine goes back to Ben Watson against Champ Bailey in 2005.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Didn't have the
yeah.
football, had plenty of space to get to full speed. Um, no one else around him. So I'm talking about two real, true, all actual, all out, true, actual maximal efforts. And that's two in probably 15 years. And I'm sure we're missing some,
Yeah,
but
but
Yeah.
that's how infrequently these guys get to like top speed. So if you have it, then you can work below it. And then not only do you seem faster, you seem like you're in better shape. You can repeat it more so that when the D back is tired, because maybe he's not as fast, then you burn him, on like, fourth quarter, something like that. I forget how we got to that. I don't even know how I got on that.
we were on 5-3-1. We were talking about
Speed reserve,
overload. Oh,
strength
relative,
reserve.
yeah, relative effort,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Um, Back to the 5-3-1. This is a good story. Um, Great program. 90% sure I gave myself rhabdo on the fives squat day. I I'll never forget. I was doing that like early on training days post college, probably like raw strength. This is one of the few numbers I remember. Mel, do you remember when we went to that gym in Quincy? And I think I hit
Yeah.
like a 345 bench or something like that. It was me, you, and Bobby. Like I hit like a probably the best bench number I've ever hit. It was like around that time. I was pretty like
Yeah.
for me as strong as I've probably been. I did the five squat day. 4 hours later, Friday, went to get dinner out, sitting in like a bar stool bar seat, eating dinner, drank a beer, normal, whatever. I get off the seat, my legs lock up in the 4 steps to get out of the bar restaurant, and I shit you not, on the ground on the sidewalk outside of this place. My VMO made of granite. Wouldn't My knee would not bend. My leg was like it was in like a post ACL reconstruction brace. Searing pain, like multiple hot steak knives into that muscle. Couldn't move. And then I think like 3 hours later, after like 3 shots of salt water and like an Epsom bath, I could like finally bend my knee again. Was that
So
my last time doing 531? No, it was not. Nope, went back for that one. But yeah, that those limit sets
I was gonna
will
say, so
get you if you let
on
them.
the 5 plus, like what did you do? Fucking 30?
It was probably like 18 or something
Oh.
like that.
It's funny
Um
because every time I did 5 plus on squats, it was always five. So weird.
and I was definitely like full like Olympic lifting style, like rebound out of the hole on every single one. So
Yeah.
that VMO was like stopping my kneecap from shooting forward out of my leg for like all 18 of them. And I paid for it a few hours later.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah, it was a good one. Good one. Oh, to be in mid 20s. That would put me out of commission for like a month at this point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. Like I barely like you talk about earlier when we were saying like just want to stay active. Like that's literally, I know Bill, you and I have talked about this in one of our garage talks, right? When
Mm-hmm.
I've had to accept the fact that I'm just old and washed up
Except
and I
mortality.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, basically, right at 33 years old I have to accept mortality. Um but no, like that I'm not an athlete anymore and I'm not training for anything. Like if I can get down in the basement to work out for 20 minutes, like that's good enough, right? Like I don't need to like I have a really hard time getting past that. Well, if I can't spend 60 to 90 minutes working out, like what's the fucking point? Like still, right? Like I can get by with 20 to 30 minutes now and I'm okay, right? Sometimes afterwards I'm like I didn't fucking push hard enough. Like I don't know, I'm kind of a psycho when it comes to working out, but whatever.
Yeah,
It's
this is a tough one. It's a conversation I have with like clients all the time, but I do think there's something to be said for once again, if you zoom out far enough, like choosing the periods where this is a don't go backwards period. Because
yeah,
I think like in like real life adulthood, plenty of that is going to be like life is gonna life. So it's like, okay, what is the don't go backwards protocol to
yeah,
like not hurt worse than you currently do, like not lose muscle tissue, not lose joint mobility, and then always having, and I think this is where people like if you have like a big training history, you get in trouble because the training that you want to do that you remember requires training to do.
right.
Like you can't start there ever. So like
Exactly.
if you can maintain a and like even in the athlete examples they talk about this like all the injuries in the NBA or not all of them but the percentage of injuries post All-Star weekend spikes in the first like 10 days post All-Star weekend because their training load is here and then the guys that don't play in the All-Star game go to whatever Bermuda for 7 days, don't do anything, and then their
Right.
training load comes right back up to here, and that's when they get hurt. And like in a much smaller level, it's the same for everybody else. So like those 20 to 30 minutes, however many days a week, that's gonna let you go do the other stuff when life go it allows you to do it.
Yeah.
But like you don't
Yeah.
do that, and then life allows you like, oh, good day, I got the time, good night's sleep, little bit of extra caffeine this morning, feeling it. That's when your shoulder or low back or whatever goes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you that day or one of the days, that we were working out there, like I don't I mean never say never, right? Because I also don't discount the fact that I'm again a moron and a bit of a psycho with working out, but I don't think I'll ever back squat again. Like I have no reason to load up a bar. You know what I mean? Because I'm also like, when I say I'll never back squat, I mean like back squat heavy, right?
Yeah.
Like I may throw 135 pounds on a bar and back squat it for, 10, 12 times, whatever, right? Like who gives a shit, right? But like I have no intention of ever loading up a barbell, getting underneath it and like back squatting heavy. Like I don't see the need to like unnecessarily load my spine at this point. Like the amount of times that I've hurt my back after my initial destruction at 22 years old or 21, however old I was, like it's here I am, 11 years later, 12 years later, and like I still deal with recurring low back problems. So to me at this point, like why the fuck would I bother ever back squatting heavy again? So like that was one of the things of needing to kind of accept and again being like, okay, yeah, it's your goblet squats, it's your split squats, it's your, RDLs, it's all these random things there. It's
You can do Bulgarians too, though. Those are like totally cool.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you RFESSs?
Everyone loves those.
Yeah,
I mean, let the strength conditioning gods smite me right now, but like in all honesty, for the majority of the population, particularly like post 30, back squats might be one of the poorest to program movements. Like the
yeah,
shoulder mobility that requires to get into a good position, which like just most people just don't have. And like you can argue that should be a good litmus test for it, and you should be able to do it. Like I think I've heard Kelly Starrett make that argument before. Valid, but if you don't, you don't. So like shoulder mobility to get into that position comfortably and maintain spinal position, most people don't have. Um, the core strength that you need to actually train hard enough to stimulate your legs the way that like a split squat, step up, leg press, like
right.
very, very challenging to do. Now, granted, my 5-3-1 story may be slightly different, but that was at a different time in life. So yeah, like I think that's where like that's a level of nuance that I think is like useful to have in that conversation. Is like, what are you doing it for?
Yeah,
Um, because yeah, if you want like plenty big, like there's plenty of bodybuilders right now, like on the international scene that have the biggest legs in the world, like that there's no way they could do a back squat. Are you kidding me?
right,
Like they can't even wash their hair, let alone put their hands on a barbell that's like stacked on their traps, and absolutely not a chance.
right.
Um, and I mean, we're like finally at the point, I feel like in the last 5 years that there's been like a slight bit of innovation on the equipment that gets used. Like safety squat bars, they're just better than barbells for squatting, especially the good
Yeah,
ones. Like
yeah,
they're just so much better. Get all the benefits, better joint angles, better muscle recruitment. Like you don't, I don't know, like shred your rotator cuff trying to get your arm on the bar. Um, so yeah, I think it's fine to put the back squat to bed for the most part at this point.
yeah. Yeah, it's just again, it's that whole, all right, I only have 25 minutes, so I'm gonna head downstairs. And I think the shitty thing for me, like at this point too, like I mostly only work out on weekends, right? So I can do a Saturday and a Sunday, and then like that's it, right? Because like by the time I get home from work or if I'm traveling, like if I'm traveling, I typically work out a little bit more because like I have nothing to fucking do, right? And especially if I'm on the West Coast, like we talked about this in the last episode, my circadian rhythm is so like in rhythm that I'm up at 3:30, right? When I go to California. So, and I'm not there long enough to adjust. So on those days, like if I'm up at 3:30, 4 o'clock, like I'll go to the gym. Like I'll go to the hotel gym at 4 o'clock and work out. So like that's fine. But like at this point, again, too, like I get 30 to 45 minutes and I'm like, it just feels like I want more. But I'm getting to the point now where like I just have to do it. Right. Like I just want to get through it.
Yeah.
Um, because for literally my entire life, right? From I don't know, 6 years old through call it 27. So for a solid 20 years, right? I was some sort of athlete, whether it was soccer, baseball, football, weightlifting, whatever, right? For 20 straight years, I was like training for something as an athlete. And now I'm just not.
See, I think that's where I lucked out, where I was like always more than bad enough at sports that like the training was never going to matter to like make me all that much better. Like it was almost purely for training's sake from day one. Because I'm like, well, this whole football thing is like very fun. No, it's not. I don't know why we did it. It really wasn't that fun,
No, it
but we
wasn't
did
that
it. We
fun.
kept coming back to it for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, but much better at the weightlifting parts. And now that is a funny one to look back at, just like how poorly we were prepared for like the standard preparation for a high school athlete in 2025 versus 2005. It is like light years different.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like
mean,
even
we were
just
doing shitty, we called them man makers in high school at D Felice. Like
oh
those were
yeah,
clean and jerks. Those were clean and jerks, but they were not clean and jerks.
nope, nope. I
They-
mean, Dad's just talking about doing speed sessions and like true change of direction work and having a speed reserve. We never in 4 years of high school football did one like actual speed workout.
Right.
Oh,
We
no
all
one
just did like,
does.
yeah, it's just all like bad, bad, weird zone 3/low zone 4 continuous conditioning. Like it's like the exact stuff that you shouldn't do. Like you should do either like really long, actually build aerobic fitness, actually have a foundation to go do all other activities on, and then get really fast. And all we did was everything but that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and then lifted with high intensity directly after.
Yeah,
And
so why
then
didn't it work?
never, well, honestly, I don't even think that was the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue looking back was like never working on any legitimate skills related to the sport that we
I was gonna
played
say
for
lack
the
of
10
talent was
months outside
probably
of
probably
like I've told this story, I don't know, no less than 1,000 times. Getting to college, like low level Division 3 college football. Granted, I do think one of the guys that I had as a coach was like just a good coach in general, but like he watched me in tackling drills day one of full pads and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You just keep hitting them with your face." And I'm like, "Yeah, screws in my helmet through their ear hole." How many times did we hear that? Screws of your helmet
Literally
through their ear hole
a million. Yeah.
or through their chin, depending on if it was an angle tackle or straight ahead. Screws of your
Right.
helmet through their ear hole. And I said that to him, and he was like, "No, no, don't do that." And I was like, everything I've been told is a lie. The
Yeah.
only coaching, like the only piece of coaching information I ever received was that. And then the first time I got to college, he was like, literally do everything but that. Like, don't do that. You're missing every time. And that's what we did. We missed every time.
so weird.
So
Yeah.
weird.
Strange.
Yeah.
Strange. All right, I got one thing here that I have a gripe with the fitness industry before we wrap things up here. Um, I'm really sick of seeing people on Instagram post fitness related content and everything centers around quote unquote setting intentions, right? They're like,
Fuck yeah.
set your intention for this, or and set your intentions for your workout, or set your intentions for your goals, or all this other shit. It drives me fucking bananas. The amount of people I've seen make those posts that are like, "Oh, always set your intentions." It's like you're in the
What the
gym,
fuck
aren't
does
you?
that mean?
Isn't your intention to be in the gym and work out and do whatever you are? Like, why do I
That's what
need
I'm
to sit
struggling
there?
with.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
What
mean,
what
maybe I'm
what
just retarded, but
I'm missing something here.
Bill, do
So,
you
and
see any of that?
I do, and I do feel like there is this, and I've had this conversation because I have clients now who have worked with trainers in the past, and it is funny how often I see this like for we'll use another Instagram term of journey, this
Yeah.
journey that many fitness professionals go on, which is like start as trainer, like we start as trainer in the gym, whether it's like former athlete. I mean, honestly, and I've heard this, I forget where I heard it, but it like three archetypes of a trainer you often see. Former athlete, don't know what to do when they finish sports, so they just like live in the gym because that feels familiar and they get a job there. Um, and then there is former fat kid who is like insecure, fat, and then use fitness to get out of shape and like or get into shape and want to share that with people. Um, and then there's uh like found exercise science and like the like math and mechanics of it essentially. Um, but then there's this weird transition that can happen from like that, okay, fitness, strength training, squats, deadlifts, protein into this like weird, like pseudo unqualified therapist person. Like, and they're like understanding of the mind goes about as deep as like the title page of like a psychology 101 book. Um, and I think that's where you get some of that. And then what's funny is like the final evolution, like the Charizard version of this becomes like Burning Man and like lives in an RV, um, and like only eats like beans and tofu and like
So
wears Birkenstocks. But
Barbell
like the
Shrugged.
amount of people,
That was Barbell
literally,
Shrugged.
yes, like
That's
he is like
literally how
the
they started
that's
back
yeah,
in 2006.
um, yeah, and yeah, and like you see that happen. Like that is like it's this weird kind of like uh Pokemon nerds rejoice of like three-tier evolution that like some of these people will go through. And I think what you're getting in that setting intentions stuff is like they're on level two. They like understand that like the power of like thought is important, but they have like no idea how to have like a legitimate conversation about what that means. So they use essentially like meaningless buzz terms, like set your intentions for the day, um, to make sure you are insert optimized or synonym for whatever goal or outcome you're looking for. Dats, you look like you're having a stroke right now, my friend.
I
Do you
wish I
smell
was having a
toast?
stroke. That's amazing. I would love for those people to come fucking pull that one off at my place. That would be awesome.
You'd be surprised. It is
Oh, it's well, so
hangout.
going back a little bit on that too. I don't think the general public understands what and this is across all, I don't think the general public understands what drug use is amongst fitness people. And that covers everything. Like it can be steroids, it can be mushrooms, it can be real drugs. And you see this a lot. People use fitness as like they get sober and then they use fitness as their drug, basically. And I could argue that it's an unhealthy way of going about things, but then people go, well, it's better than heroin. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. Good talk. Um, so whatever, I don't care. Do whatever you want. But this actually came up recently. Someone they were I mean, I'll say I don't want to get involved with the real person. I'll tell you guys offline. That's fine. Uh, trainer wrote a book, the whole thing. General men's training, fat loss, get jacked, like that. And then things got weird. Um, things got really weird. And then all of a sudden he's a writer now, and all of his writing is like really like because he was the author before, but now he's a writer in all the words and this, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is happening here. Like this is too much. And then it was like, oh, like on writing, and then all of a sudden things come out. You stop seeing him and his wife. And then a couple years later, you see that now he's polyamorous or whatever the fuck. And it's like, okay,
That's when
One
we
of
things
the
get to level three
evolutions.
Burning Man.
things
Yeah, I was
are
gonna
now
say.
weird.
Yeah.
And then, and again, it's social media. You don't see the whole thing. It's like, okay, so you're not with your wife, you're polyamorous, whatever. And now, uh, the allegations are like rampant sexual assault. And it is all and I stopped following the guy because I couldn't do this anymore because I'm not there. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I can't form an opinion. It doesn't matter. But all of the cases seem to involve real drugs. And like the person that was involved with this definitely was like in a big circle of trainers and fitness people and like writers, big circle. And like, yeah, it's a shit show now. And there's allegations, there's a rebuttal. So again, whatever the situation is now, I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. I can't do it. But like, dude, we're going deep in the K hole. We're going mushrooms out in fucking God knows. Like, it's everything. And it's like, there's a whole network of people that this probably applies to. And it used to be easy. People were just drunks or they would do fucking coke, and that's why they were so intense all the time. But like when people start getting weird, I'm sorry, I'm not just like rubbing that like because every time someone gets weird, they're on fucking drugs. It's like there was a while where it's almost like the Patrick Mahomes thing, right? Where it's like you start out and it's like, oh, someone's acting weird, they're on drugs. And then it goes up and it's like, well, actually, people can be quirky and, different personalities. And like, there's a lot of reasons why someone might be weird. And, as they get older, they develop into a different type of person, they get into other things. And then like the high IQ guys, just like, yeah, man, they're just on drugs. Like, I'm almost stuck between the retard and the high IQ guy. And I don't really know I know which one I am, but I don't know which one's right in this situation. Um, because it always comes out that way, and it's like some of these fitness people, you just see it's like solid fitness information, and then it's like things are getting a little bit weird, and then all of a sudden they're like fucking into crocheting, and I'm like, I'm just like, I don't know, dude. Like,
Yeah, I feel like there's a thin line with a lot of people in fitness between fitness and whatever their extracurriculars become. I mean, that's what happened to the guy that invented the peanut, right? Like he got into some drugs and he ended up dying, right? I mean, like
well, it's like
it
it's
happens, right?
you have
Like
a
it's
lot there's a lot of reasons why it can sort of go this way too, and it's like people are trying to maintain an image. That's stress, pressure, whatever you want to fucking call it. And then it's like, people are working really hard to like impress others. And it's like, that's a lot of stress and that's a lot of whatever. Then it's like, the setting intentions and the mindset stuff. It's less X's and O's. Like,
Right.
It's a softer skill. Like if someone comes to you and goes, I want to lose 10 pounds and they don't lose the 10 pounds, like you suck. But it's like, oh yeah, no, like we're doing mindset stuff. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
with a
it's like
side of
amorphous. There's
ayahuasca
like
or what?
no like did correctly or didn't.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
finish line to intention setting. Um,
Right.
Never mind someone who's really, really like, especially if they start as like a fitness enthusiast, whatever. Like being that good does require addictive tendencies.
Right.
And it's like those don't just go
yeah,
away because you're strong or lean.
Right.
They're always there.
Right.
But like you're probably not going to smoke cigarettes because like that's a bad image. But no one can see you doing ketamine. Like and you hear it all the time too, because it can also because it's also a very lonely place. But yeah, I mean like that kind of went down like the really dark side of things. I've just noticed anytime someone starts getting weird, it's like I'm sorry, you didn't just turn weird because you would have just kept doing what you were doing. Like especially if you're good, like if I know about you, you're good at what you do, you would just keep doing it and helping more people. When all of a sudden it's like you stop wearing shoes and like you're talking about all this crazy ass shit, like I'm gonna think you're on drugs. It's very simple.
it is funny that we like I've definitely, and I don't know exactly who you're talking about, but it is that like the initial response, like, whoa, that's weird. Something changed. And then there is this like weird intellectualizing of like well, maybe they've transcended this thing into that. Yeah, but like I don't know if it's benefit of the doubt. I don't know if it's like people's drive to understand in a way that is like unique to them, like they have the secret that somebody else does. I don't know. And then like 2 years later, it's like no, no, they were just doing some weird shit behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. They were on drugs.
yep,
Or they were gambling at it, like whatever. There's always something.
yeah.
Yeah.
No one just and it's very, very rare. Like
I mean, look,
think
people
think
were
of the
trying
bigger
to.
biggest examples like Bezos and Musk and Bill Gates. Those guys don't just turn weird. Influenced by money, yes, but like they don't just turn into this guy that's like, you know what? I've always just wanted to live off a farm. That's what I've wanted to do. Give up all my possessions. I don't need possessions. I just want to help people.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop wearing shoes.
I mean, like, let's put it this way. People were literally like a decent swath of people were trying to reason through the fact that like the Liver King was actually natural. Like real humans with like supposedly functioning brains were trying to make a case for the fact that like that dude
Ain't,
wasn't on steroids.
ain't nobody that big.
Yeah.
No
No,
way.
no,
Yeah.
not so many levels away from that you can't get to. But like
Because
that was a
if you
legitimate
do,
conversation for like
you're
a year
not,
on the internet.
he was like at whatever, 6% body fat. Like you can get that big, but you can't be that lean, right? Like you look at the world's
For
strongest
that
men,
long.
right? Like if you look at like a a Brian Shaw or a Thor Bjornsson or a
Bill
Magnus
Fister,
Magnuson or like all those guys. Like
Marius
Jordan Carlson.
Pujanovsky's the name you're looking
Marius
for.
Pujanovsky,
That
yeah, he
dude was a
is.
unit.
But like you don't like he wasn't lean, right? Like he
Yeah,
was
they're all skinny
huge.
slobs.
Yeah. I mean, Marius Pujanovsky was probably the closest thing you got to shredded at World's
I
Strongest
mean,
Man.
he had a six pack. He was probably honestly like 16 to 18% body fat. He was just like 290 pounds at 5'8".
Yeah,
Like
he was small.
you don't need to be that lean to have muscle tissue show through when you're that massive or like
Yeah.
whatever he is. But yeah, but like the Liver King, he had like veins in his forehead. Like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, so like people will go to leaps and bounds to try to like create an understanding, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's about that time to wrap this bitch up. Bill, you got a final thought?
Um Come back to me.
We could come back to you. Scratch
Hmm.
Man.
Well, since this is the fitness episode, let's talk about food. Um, I think I've had enough of these cooking videos. So this actually does fit because this is the gripe. It's just not fitness. I've got a gripe with these videos where people go through these leaps and bounds and we got a big green egg or over the fire, whatever, and they make like a big ass steak and the steak looks awesome. And it's like I want to eat that, like all of it. Give me the steak, give me all of it, whatever. Just to cut it up and put it in a fucking sandwich. Like enough of the fucking steak sandwiches. Make a steak, period, or make a sandwich where you use the appropriate style of, generally like a shaved steak or a chopped steak or something. And then that's what you cook up, and then you put that in the sandwich.
Yeah, don't take like the $120 French cut ribeye and then slice it and put it in a fucking sandwich.
And that's the thing. I don't even care how much you spend on it. But when you take a steak and you
Well, no, I
slice
mean
it
like the
thin,
thought being that like it's a good steak that you want
no,
to
the
eat,
reason
not
sandwiches
in a
exist is to
sandwich.
cover up food that either kind of sucks or is hard to eat. It's one or the other.
Right.
But don't take a steak, cut it like a normal, like you're gonna eat it with a fork and knife, and then just put it in a sandwich. I'm like, that doesn't chew. You can't chew that. You can't break that off. And I'd rather just eat the steak. So I've had enough steak sandwiches. I know you and Joan send them to me too. It's not you guys' fault. This is me. I've got a lot of problems. I know that. If I start talking about like, have you guys ever thought about like the bigger picture of like steak, then you can just assume I'm on drugs because I'm in the right industry. But I'm good. I'm done. Like I'm looking at these sandwiches. I go, they don't even look good. I go, the construction of the sandwich doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. I'm like that does not work. I go, that's
Yeah.
not going to be good. That's not going to be nice to eat. I'd rather just eat the steak. So officially out on steak sandwiches. I'm done. Unless it's like an actual steak and cheese or whatever, where it's like that's the correct way to make a steak sandwich. In which case, in. But
Right. Which is a great segue into my final thought. Speaking of steak and cheese, I was in Philly on Monday, which like, I flew into Philly. I did not stay in Philly. I went to Conshohocken. Shout out to Conchi. Um, so I did not get to see any of the destruction that was in the city. Amy sent me a video on Instagram of like windows were shattered and storefronts were destroyed, and it's like, did you guys win the Super Bowl or are you protesting like George Floyd? Like, what's going on here? But regardless, so I'm in Conshohocken, right? Shout out to Caps Deli. I got my last Conchi Classic, steak and cheese, phenomenal. I don't know if or when I'll ever be back there, but we're sitting in the building, right? And this is what I think is hilarious. So the building is on a river, right, that runs through Conshohocken. It's a beautiful new space that we got them in. Obviously we built it out, did the whole thing. It's a really nice building. Everyone had so many nice things to say about the view, right? They're like, "Oh, this is awesome. Like our office like overlooks this river. Everyone's loving it, right? It's day one. People have so many nice things to say." There's a girl that works for the company that I used to work for who's there like helping out with some like post-move support stuff. She grew up in Conshohocken and she goes, we were looking out the window and I was like, yeah, it's a pretty cool view. Like everyone's talking about like the nice river and all that. And she goes, yeah, it is pretty nice now. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? She goes, all right, so here's the deal. Like a few years ago, and I don't know what she meant by that, if it was like 15 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever. But she goes, a few years ago, they actually went and cleaned up the river. And she goes, they pulled out a bunch of cars from the river. Like there used to be a bunch of cars like at the bottom of the river. And then I immediately just blurt out because I can't help myself. I go, are any bodies in those cars? And she just bursts into
definitely.
laughter and she goes, there had to have been, right? And my response was, you don't just put cars at the bottom of a river, right? Without a reason. Like typically the car
Honestly,
goes to the
not
bottom
unless
of the
there was
river.
a hurricane.
Yeah,
Like,
like typically a car goes
Good
to
old
the bottom of
fashioned
the
insurance
river
scam.
if there's a body in it. So apparently, this river used to be a dumping ground for the Philadelphia mob. And here we are, where like it's day one in this brand new building, and everyone is like oohing and awing over the beautiful views that we have from the fourth floor of our building that overlooks this beautiful river with a bike path. And there's a nice bridge in the distance in this quaint little town of Conshohocken, Philadelphia, that's a suburb of Philadelphia. And this girl goes, yeah, the fucking Philadelphia mob used to dump bodies in there all the time. They pulled out like 12 cars, like however many years ago.
If they only knew.
Yeah, yeah. So that's I got a good kick out of that, and I figured you guys would too. So, Bill, did you come up with a final thought yet?
Oh, yes. So to tie it back in, that's when food, um, we were talking about fitness and whatnot. If there's actually one guy, I don't follow the profile. One of those things you watch one video and then you just get
Yes.
37 videos from the same account over and over again.
Yep.
And this guy was recreating a bunch of like the fitness food recipes. Like, obviously, people need more protein in their diet. Like, I think we kind of get that right now. We just don't need 55 grams of protein in some things. Like, we just don't. Like, not everything needs to be made of cottage cheese. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you just don't get to have pizza that has 32 grams of protein per slice because the crust is made of cottage cheese and chicken. Maybe you don't get to do that. I don't know. Um, so that is my final thought. Not everything needs to have protein in it. We can
Yeah.
just eat the steak off the grill, not in a sandwich because that'll make Daps mad. But
Yeah.
just eat the steak.
Or if you want to eat pizza,
eat
just
the
eat
fucking
pizza,
pizza.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you don't need to make, like you said, a cottage cheese and ground chicken crust pizza so that you get all that. No, just eat the pizza. Just eat it. It's
Maybe don't
fine.
eat it
You're not
every
going to
night.
die. Yeah, definitely don't eat it every night and maybe
And I
not eat an
mean,
entire pizza in one sitting, but like just eat the pizza, dude. Like you don't have to make it like this whole thing. Yeah,
that's the other. I
I'm
mean,
on
like,
board with you there.
and it's funny because to keep it simple, I've seen a big thing lately where I don't know if it's like it must be a Twitter thing. It has to be because there is some bodybuilder and he eats like 4,000 calories a day, and um, someone mentioned they were like, I just don't know how you eat, this many. Like he goes, I just really don't get how you. What is it? You eat 2 times your body weight in kilos in protein.
Yeah, or
I
one
think that's
gram
like
per
the up. I
pound.
think that's like the upper limit or so.
Yeah.
Or I think that's about as much as you can like really handle. I believe I could be off, but I think like 2.2, or maybe that's just the conversion. I forget what it is, but like you're not absorbing more than much more than that. And some dude goes, I don't see why that's all that hard. And he's like, well, I'll just have like 9 yogurts for breakfast. He goes, I'll have 4 more at lunch with like a whatever. And then at dinner I'll have steak, potatoes, and maybe 5 more yogurts. I'm like, you're eating fucking 20 yogurts in a day? Like,
Yeah,
what are we talking?
you do you
Wait, was
shit
this like
once a week? Like,
was this like a real thought, like mental exercise this person went through?
No, dude, I think he actually eats like this because
Oh,
so
oh,
this
okay.
is a real person. So it's a real, and he is a bodybuilder. So it's like this dude is fucking put together. I don't know if
just
he
really likes
competes.
yogurt.
Well, and but I've seen it, like I keep seeing it around, and then some people like will come and be like, "You must really like yogurt," and they're like, "Well, it's high protein and it's cheap. Like it's a means to an end here." Which is and the only reason I even bring that up is because one, it's actually a pretty good idea. Again, because if you struggle, because I'm going the other way, if you struggle to hit your protein needs, like it's a really good way to get there because everyone gets like lost in this translation of like, oh, well, I had one yogurt today, and it's like, who the fuck said you can only have one? And like I eat two together right now, and it's like, oh, really like yogurt, huh? It's like it's 2 yogurts. This is like nothing. I'm like, some dude just talked about eating 20 in a day. 20? I'm like, yes, you can have multiple servings of something. It's okay. And I've
Yeah.
I've done that lesson before, which is the polar opposite idea of these fucking bastardized fucking God knows what's. It's like pizza is very simple. It's a dough and its toppings. And dough, generally speaking, is some variation of flour, water, salt, yeast, maybe olive oil, maybe some weird shit. It's kind of it. And you're using cottage cheese in a fucking animal protein to make a crust. Do you maybe think that that's fucking like just dumb? Just fucking stupid. If you need to hit your fucking protein, just fucking eat some food, please.
On the biggest one that I've like, and I the looks that I've gotten from some clients in the past when I say this, and like the protein thing is an interesting one because I honestly, yeah, I don't think it's that hard to do like zero point 0.8 to 1.0 gram per pound
No, that's
body weight.
easy. That's easy. I tried
Yeah.
getting,
If
I was trying to get, hold on. If I'm 165, what's 165 in kilos? Is that like 70, 75? 75 kilos?
75, 150, yeah.
Okay, so I was trying to go like just under 2.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. So
So you're trying to get to like 200.
I was getting like I was trying like 180. That's why, because I
Yeah.
wasn't quite getting 2.5. I was like 180. And I found that to be very easy with protein drinks, but you have to drink those and like them and whatever. Um, I didn't feel any better. Actually felt kind of crappy because that's all I did is I just kind of supplemented with shakes and
Yeah.
powders.
Yeah, I think the shakes, I think like the yogurt, I drink these like yogurt drinks. They're like 20 grams of protein, 100 calories, probably like the best calorie
Is
to
it the
protein.
oik? Is it the oikos ones?
No, they're
Oikos.
pillar, but they're essentially the same
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Same idea. Smack two of those takes like a minute, 40 grams of protein. But what I'll try to look at clients say is like, you realize breakfast does not need to just be eggs and or cereal grains. Like you can eat food. Like you can eat
Yeah.
Eat whatever you
chicken
want.
at breakfast. And they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. Like
Yeah.
they're like
Breakfast is whatever you eat
the
first.
foods that you eat at like lunch or dinner, like you could just eat that again. Like you don't like
Yeah.
Well,
because
again, these
what I see is like people would get like let's say somebody at 150-gram target, they get like 35 at lunch, like another 30 for a snack, and like 50 at dinner, and like 11 at breakfast with like two eggs or some shit, like 14. They're like, well, all you can have for breakfast protein is eggs. Nope.
no.
Eh, wrong.
Yeah.
Any of
Not
those
true.
other things, you can do that then too.
Yeah.
Um,
I've had these arguments with children before
Yeah.
but at
because
least you're having
I'm
them with children. I'm having them with like 50-year-old executives.
this is what I mean is people don't get smarter.
No, they
They
don't.
become more
They just get
experienced and they
older.
become more educated. They don't get smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I was eating ground turkey and like cauliflower rice, whatever. I make that all the time. And I was eating it probably a little bit earlier in the day than I normally would, maybe like 9:30 as opposed to like 11. And they're like, "What are you eating?" I'm like, "It's ground turkey and cauliflower rice." They're like, "For breakfast?" I go, "I don't even know." I go, "I was up at fucking 4:45 today. What time is it? I'm
Yeah.
hungry." And then they're like, I don't know how you eat that for breakfast. I go, okay, let's do this. So if I had an egg and I scrambled it up and cooked it in this, it'd be cool for breakfast. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, it's a scramble, right? Like, do you eat scrambles for breakfast? Yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, so it's cool. So because it's missing an egg, it's not breakfast. Look me dead in the eyes and go, yes.
Yeah.
And I just start laughing. I go, okay, good. I got nothing for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are just dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the bodybuilders. Their ground beef and rice doesn't matter what time of day. And I've heard some people they were like, if I can get 100 grams of protein before like noon, they're like, I'm in a good spot. And people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? He goes, I don't know. Chicken's pretty easy.
You eat
Like,
twice.
They're
You eat
like,
50
Yeah.
grams twice. That's how you do that.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
8 ounces of chicken is like 60 grams, and then if you have like
One shake.
anything else, you're good. You're
Yeah.
like, but like you, oh my God, you eat chicken before noon? He goes, yeah, how else am I gonna get to 100?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's hard, but we need to jump all the way to setting your intentions before um you get
yeah.
on the treadmill for your incline walk.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So with that, um, that's gonna do it. So thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Hit subscribe up above. Hit the thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you're an audio only guy as well. You can leave us a review on Spotify and iTunes. You can get us on Instagram at Sarcasm Speaks Pod. Twitter is Sarcasm_speaks. Facebook page is Sarcasm Speaks. You can check out the show notes to get some links to some sponsors, get some cool stuff, support them, support us. And until next time, good night, everybody.